Well, good to have you again in my house, and you're already part of the family. And there's always a lot of new things happening. There's also something very important as far as news goes. On Monday, December the 10th, God willing, we are having our first party convention or first party congress of the Bible Block Party at the Dan Hotel. And we will have, of course, the 100 people who signed up as founders of the party. And we have about another 30, 40 people who would like to come to the meeting and join our party. And we have to elect the secretariat, the treasury, and the executive. We have to, of course, a number of people, including myself, have to give speeches. And it'll be a very nice meeting, I think. And then we're going to have to discuss dues. How much will it cost to be a member of the party? And it's nitty-gritty political work, the beginning of the Bible Block Party as far as a functioning, living organism. And today is the first night of Hanukkah, actually. We'll be lighting candles in a while. Hanukkah, of course, is a very, very important holiday for Jews and for Christians. If Christians open up the New Testament to John 10, verse 22, it says that Jesus visited the temple on the Feast of Dedication in the winter. So he was at the temple, the Feast of Dedication, which is Hanukkah, in the winter. And what many people don't understand is if the Greek pagans had defeated Judah Maccabee and his whole family, there would be no Jesus Christ because there would be no Judaism. This is 165 years before the time of Christ. So Jesus, of course, had to celebrate Hanukkah with everyone else at the temple, and it's a very important time. Our party congress will be held the night that Hanukkah ends. In other words, we didn't want to get involved during the holiday time when families are visiting families and lighting candles. So this is right after the candle lighting time.
So here we are at the beginning of Hanukkah, and then as soon as Hanukkah ends, you're all business.
We hit the ground running.
Now, I had somebody ask me the other day, what is the name of the Bible Block Party in Hebrew?
Okay, well, we call it in Hebrew Gush HaTanachi. Tanakh, of course, is the Old Testament, and Gush is block, B-L-O-C.
Oh, like Gush Etzion.
Exactly. Etzion block, Bible block. And
which is a region south of Jerusalem, sort of a regional, what we think of like as a county, but it's, I think, more than that.
Yes, Gush actually means coming together. In the case of Gush Etzion, coming together of a number of settlements, and with us, it's coming together of Jews and Christians who believe in the Old Testament, and forming a strategic alliance and love party between Jews and Christians of all walks, and prepare Israel. Firstly, to give representation to Christians who today are not represented in our Knesset. We have Arabic-speaking Christians and Russian-speaking Christians. That's already 8% of our population. And as you know, and I've said this many times, I'm predicting a tremendous homecoming of millions of Jews and Christian spouses and children to the land of Israel when the Islamic terrorism hits the Jews and Christians in earnest in the United States, Canada, and the diaspora in general.
Yeah, that is a big prediction, and you were also, I think, maybe a lot of our viewers don't realize that you were actually ahead of the game in terms of predicting 9/11. You've been going to churches and talking about the Islamic threat since 1990, right?
Very correct. And indeed, people, I think, looked at me kind of like as a curiosity. I was a strange person saying strange things. Which are very, very hard for Americans or people outside of Israel, or maybe even people in Israel to believe. And I have to, of course, blame my wife. I have to give her the credit for everything, because as an intelligence gatherer, Rachel was picking up reports all the time where the Islamic world, the Arab world, was saying, we will destroy America, we will destroy Wall Street, we will destroy the World Trade Center, we will destroy the airliners. And they were saying this 5 years before, 2001. And I wrote this in my first book, is Fanatic Islam, a Global Threat. And everyone criticized me for being, racist and bigoted and prejudiced. And And they said, well, Muslims are great people. I said, yes, Muslims are great people, just like any other people. But the terrorists who are going to come to America are going to be Muslims. And then after the 9/11 attacks, they said, Avi's a prophet. Avi's a prophet. Everything he said came true. So I said, I'm not a prophet. I just listened to my wife, Rachel.
Well, but you've been saying for some time, and I don't think since 1990, but later on, you know, you hit on this idea that when these attacks, when after the first attack and when more attacks come, that eventually Bible prophecy is going to be fulfilled.
Yes, indeed. It is written in the Torah, and it is in our Jewish prayers every day, 3 times a day. We pray for the Messiah to show up. I don't think we really want him to come. We pray 3 times a day for the temple to be rebuilt. I don't think people really want the temple because it will overcome 2,000 years of litigation. And we pray 3 times a day for all the Jews to be gathered up by God sovereignly and brought home to Israel. Do you see the Jews leaving America anytime soon? And listen, America is a country club for Jewish people. Canada is a country club. The Jews live very well outside of Israel. Why would they want to leave all that and come to a war zone? But actually, it'll be safer here than in America.
Yeah, so is it your point that, by the way, I think those 3 points were interesting. But is it your idea then that Jews in America and Canada and so forth are not going to come unless it's absolutely horrible in terms of where they are?
Right, correct. Again, I have to tell you, I work 6 days a week. I go to churches 6 days a week of all denominations.
And the seventh you rest.
Seventh day, no, I don't rest. I go to synagogue, and I have the hardest time of my life because then I have to fight with my own people. And the thing is, you go to synagogue. Let me tell you, let's say a synagogue of 500 people or 1,000 people. I'm usually the first guy to arrive because I love the liturgy. I love the prayers. And I get there like 10, 15, 20 guys, and we start the service. Very nice and everything. After about 45 minutes to an hour, we get to the second part of the service, which is taking the Torah scroll out of the ark and reading it. And then by then we're up to 50 people. Then after the Torah reading comes the rabbi's speech. Usually by then we're up to 200 people. And by the end of the service, which is just before the meal, we have 500 people in the synagogue. And then during the meal, everyone is having a good time. And you have to understand, Orthodox Jews, I count myself today as an Orthodox Jew, even though I'm originally conservative. Orthodox Jews don't drive on the Sabbath. So you can drink as much booze as you want because you're not going to be driving, you're going to be walking. And so we're drinking and eating and laughing and having... Shabbat is the best day of the week. It's fellowship time. Jews work very hard. We work 6 days a week, very hard. So on the Sabbath, we like to let go. So... do you think they want to hear Avi Lipkin come and talk about doomsday? And that they're going to have to pick up and move to Israel?
Hey, Avi, there's an exit sign in 3 places. That's what they'd say.
Yeah. And so Jewish people, let me tell you, are so blessed in America that, why would they want to leave? And people don't understand that God has a plan. And my Bible Block Party will be part of that plan in the sense that it will be the organization that will be embracing the new immigrants, Jews and Christians who will be coming home. Don't forget, Jews hate the Christians, so they marry them. And that's 80% intermarriage in the States. If you've got 6 million Jews in the States, there are going to be 4 million Christian spouses and children. And when the Muslims come to kill the Jews, they're going to be killing the Christian spouses and children too. So I'm predicting that Israel's population will grow from 6.5 million, 6 million Jews, 5 million Christians, 500,000 Christians. We're going to grow to about 16 million, of which maybe 3-4 million will be Christian.
Do you believe that it is fully predicted in the Tanakh that all Jews will return?
Well, God says, I will collect my people from the remnant. And what we have today is a remnant after 2,000 years of horrible holocausts and pogroms and other things, persecutions. Yes, it does say, I don't remember, I think it's in Deuteronomy. It says, when it's all said and done, I will gather up my people and bring them home.
Do you think that is the entire remnant? Do you think that the Jews are pretty much going to be fished out or are hunted out of?
Yes. Well, the fishing out, I think, is ending. I think the hunting is starting. With the horrible event in Pittsburgh, is a sign. But one of the things we see happening is Jews in America being attacked in the streets in different cities, different places. The media doesn't want to cover it. Anti-Semitic rants and taunting of the Jews is not covered in the American media because it's not politically correct. But I think when enough blood, unfortunately, is spilled, then there will be many Jews who say, you know what, we really cannot stay here anymore. So here and there it's a pinprick, but very soon it's going to be very serious jabs, painful jabs at the Jewish people. And I think there will be more and more Jews just having to pick up and come home. And that's why I'm creating this party.
So these are the two big predictions. I mean, you predicted the Islamic terror 11 years before it happened. You've been predicting the massive Jewish return in response to...
and also the massive Islamic immigration to the West.
To the West.
From the Arab Spring, which is going to lead to this giant spatula scraping up the Jews and their Christian spouses and forcing them to flee to Israel.
So how many years have you been predicting that?
28 years.
What, since 1990?
90?
From the very beginning?
From the very beginning.
I thought you waited till 2001 to start to go to stage two.
Firstly, my first book was written in 1995, so that's already 24 years ago. But in the year 2000, I was already predicting the political party, and I had been in Canada in 1999 in June, and that's where I picked up the Edmonton Revelation, which is something about Islamic plans to kill the Jews in every part of the world outside of Israel.
When we come back, I want to ask Avi the question that's been in my mind since he's been talking here about the massive Jewish return, and that's about whether that return, don't answer, whether that return can be accomplished specifically in a targeting of the Jewish people, or it requires a targeting of all Americans and so forth. We'll ask that when we come back in the next segment. And until then, shalom.